diddly doot. And we're going to go to our brother, our INN friend, Indie Main, the Dissident. Okay, so again, we got to give this one a like, although I am INN. The Dissident published another one. He's been on a tear lately talking about Bellingcat. Bellingcat is, again, and they're going to talk about, he's going to talk about what they are and who they are and what they're doing and why we all need to be aware of who they are and dismiss a lot of what they say and take it at least with a grain of salt and consider what they're saying, why they're saying it, and what the motivations are behind that. So, more detailed expose of Bellingcat's shady connections and propaganda, and he cites several examples here.
And this is after me and Colin covered one of his Bellingcat stories last week.
Yes, on INN News. That's correct.
And that was about their takes on Ukraine stuff and things like that. It was pretty good. And Colin wasn't really sure, so I think the Dissident came out and kind of expanded on why Bellingcat's, the way it is right now.
Yep. So recently he published this article like he showed, and that's again on his Substack, the 307.substack.com, but also co-published to IndieNews.Network.substack.com. So proud of that. Again, Indie News Network, collaborative group of 19 different content creators who are all independent. We all have our own channels. We all have our own outlets, audiences, experience, perspectives, and we all come together to share platforms, knowledge, and collaborate, guests on each other's shows, technical experience, and amplification to share each other's links and shows when we go live. Shout out to all the Indie News Network members. I know Noli D, she was just in the chat. She's a member. Of course, Reef and I are both members. War Deer Entertainment, you saw Warren in the chat before. He's also a member. We got 19 members. So if you go to IndieNews.Network, you can find all of our channels, and there's even now a link tree that has a link to find all of the members for Indie News Network and find all of their links as well. Noli, by the way, hi Noli, we shouted you out earlier. We did tell people to go to your DIYhero.org to vote for you for second place. Well, we want you to be in first place. You're currently in second.
Yeah.
So we want to help continue to lift you up there. And get you the 25,000 so that you can build that safe house. You can contribute toward that safe house. Again, let's get into our friend the Dissident. So let's go back so I can crop this properly. Okay. Recently published an article showcasing Bellingcat's latest fake news story and showcasing some of their shady connections to U.S. and U.K. security states. Again, the Gray Zone has published this, and they've been outstanding at pointing this out, but they're not the only ones. Jimmy Dore also has exposed a lot of Bellingcat. Further reporting on Bellingcat's lack of expertise, security state connections, and the smearing of the OPCW whistleblowers. All right.
Amicus Bearing's a big fan of them, know.
Oh, yeah. Well, because they were founded by Elliot Higgins, a British blogger who used to write under the pseudonym Brown Moses. As Mark Ames pointed out, that the pseudonym was misleading, as it gave the impression that he was of Middle Eastern origin, when in reality he was a quote-unquote doughy, pinkish Midlands gamer. Great.
Jesus.
Okay. Despite being propped up as some kind of expert by mainstream media, Higgins lacks any real experience. A profile of Higgins in the New York Times stated that he attributed his skill not to any special knowledge of international conflicts or digital data, but to the hours he'd spent playing video games.
Ooh, that Call of Duty gave him that foreign policy information.
Which he said gave him an idea that any mystery can be cracked. Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, so before becoming a quote-unquote journalist, Higgins sold women's lingerie. Totally background that gives you the experience to analyze the complex military and intelligence situations. Higgins' research has been criticized by such experts as Ted Postal, a professor of science technology at MIT. In a debate with Higgins over the alleged chemical attacks in Khan Sheikhoun, Syria, Postal said of Higgins' work, there is no science at all in what was presented. None at all. Okay. Bellingcat is far from independent, as they're funded by the CIA, cut out the NED, as well as the pro-NATO think tank, the Atlantic Council, which itself is funded by Western governments, oil companies, arms manufacturers, and let's not forget the Ford Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation, which are also charitable cutout fronts that have been known to do a lot of work with U.S. intelligence. An article in Foreign Policy magazine quoted former CIA deputy chief saying, "I don't want to be dramatic, but we love this," referring to Bellingcat's work. Of course they do, because
they do,
because they're serving
the empire,
pretty much. So,
sorry.
Right? Investigations from multiple independent journalists have exposed Bellingcat's connections to the security state. So here's Ellen McLeod, one of the fans, one of my favorites, and one of the people that we showcase on a regular basis in Minpress News and Fair. He was on recently with Katie Halper, but he exposed that many of Bellingcat's employees come from military and intelligence agencies. Nick Waters was an officer in the British Army. One of their contributors, Cameron Colquhoun, spent a decade in Britain's version of the NSA, the GCHQ. Yeah. So Aaron Mate reported on an internal UK government review. Oh, Aaron Mate. Yes, Aaron Mate, who I, by the way, spoke with on Monday on Useful Idiots on their call, and I dialed in and asked him about independent media. Fanto, shout out to Fantomas Fanto for clipping that and getting it up onto Twitter. Thank you so much for that. That was a lot of fun to have a chance to talk to Aaron. He was a little down on potentially collaborating. A bunch of lefty people thought there was too much personality and ego to actually make it work long term. But I'll be the optimist and I'll let him be the pessimist, and I'll be happy to try to prove him wrong. But again, UK internal government review of Bellingcat stated that they were discredited for spreading misinformation and being willing to produce reports for anyone willing to pay. Okay, Max Blumenthal, again, fan, where we support Max Blumenthal. We amplify all of these people's work. Okay, reported on leaked documents that show Bellingcat took part in a covert UK Foreign Office program called created to weaken Russia, similar to the way that they had infiltrated and tried to create the Afghanistan conflict through proxy war. All right. And then journalist Matt Kennard and Mark Curtis from Declassified UK, I believe, or Double Down News, it's declassified, reported that after the UK government identified North Macedonia as a priority country, they deployed Bellingcat, which later wrote a report entitled Russian Interference in North Macedonia, a View Before the Elections. So they focus almost entirely on enemies of the US and UK empires, namely Russia, Syria. As the previously mentioned Matt Kennard found last year, Bellingcat published 144 stories on Russia, 244 on Syria, compared to 5 on the UK and 17 on Saudi Arabia. How interesting.
Yep.
Using their own website and looking at their own tags, how many articles did they actually tag with that? Very interesting. They've also relentlessly attacked the anti-imperialist left. What a surprise, because they're serving imperialism. In a ridiculous smear article published in 2019, they alleged that prominent anti-imperialists were on the payroll of Assad because they received $2,500 from a California-based anti-war nonprofit headed by activist Paul Larudi that they claimed was the Assad lobby. I believe this is what they try to smear Jimmy Dore with all the time. This right here. Okay? This is what it's all about. And here's the actual, I'm guessing this is probably, behind the headlines. That's Dan Cohen debunking it. So again, the piece smeared many prominent anti-imperialists, including the outlets Minpress News, Black Agenda Report, Venezuela analysis journalist Max Blumenthal, Rania Khalek. Shout out to Rania. Love you, Rania. And commentators Kim Iverson and Jimmy Dore. We know our friend, the Debate Me channel. He loves him, Kim Iverson and Jimmy Dore.
Yeah.
Bellingcat has also attempted
to discredit the OPCW whistleblowers. For context, Donald Trump bombed Syria in 2018 over an allegation of a chemical attack in the town of Douma, the only time that they said he was presidential, if I remember correctly. Later, the chemical weapons watchdog, the OPCW, came out with a report that matched the U.S. government line that there was a chlorine attack done by the Assad regime in Douma. But later, some of the team's top inspectors released censored documents to WikiLeaks that undermined this narrative. The first attempt was when they published a letter that claimed to have been sent by the OPCW's Director General to the inspectors that debunks the documents released to WikiLeaks. But journalist Darren Motte exposed that this was a draft letter that was never actually sent to the inspectors. Higgins has even listed the OPCW as a partner of Bellingcat and later backtracked, saying it was a copying error.
Unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, stone cold busted. And still using this lie to this day to try to smear people, saying that this was not a draft. What?
Right. But
admits that it was a draft. Doesn't care.
You could smell it in the backpack. Okay, you could just smell it. All right.
Yep. Well, that's what the CNN reporter said. You could smell it.
Yes.
Okay. Keep in mind, the UK Foreign Office said Higgins was willing to write reports for anyone willing to pay. It is possible Higgins was working with the OPCW leadership in an attempt to discredit its own dissenting inspectors, who've been supported by Noam Chomsky, Daniel Ellsberg, and 5 former OPCW officials, including Nils Melzer, as far as if I remember correctly, the chief and whoever was the chief inspector. Nils Melzer is the expert on torture. In another bizarre instance, Bellingcat reporter Nick Waters and HuffPost reporter Chris York sent identical emails to WikiLeaks asking about the OPCW whistleblowers. As Aaron Motte pointed out, that this signals that neither Waters nor York wrote their overlapping questions or texts to begin with and received them instead from a mutual source and fired them off. From Higgins' lack of experience, the coincidence that they wrote the exact same thing at the exact same time and sent it to the exact same person can't be. So, from Higgins' lack of experience to Bellingcat's connections to U.S.-UK security state to his smearing of leftists and whistleblowers, Bellingcat should not be trusted as a source, or should at least, at minimum, be taken with a grain of salt. But no, should not be trusted as a source. Full disclosure, I did help the Dissident edit this article and just cleaned it up. Punctuation, spelling. Did not add any links or anything else, but it did help clean this one up.